He puts a hard looping pass across.
The pass across, Piker, she turns left.
Is quickly shut down by Nat.
Line, will he get rid of it?
Josh sees the ball, takes it on his knee.
Welcome back to episode 2. It is our intention in this series to give you a more in-depth look at how polo cross in the UK runs as it prepares for the 2023 World Cup. In April, we've been busy finalising the plans for the changes we're going to see in the player development pathway and how this links with our national teams,
as well as setting out a clear selection process for our open nominees over this summer.
This month, I was also joined by a previous World Cup player, as well as captain, who gives us a little bit more in depth of not only what it was like to play, but actually captain at the highest level.
There it goes as they're out over the top of the threes. It'll be Liner and Bean to see the first of it. Oh, lovely.
My name is Kerry Bean. I have been playing polo cross now, I think, for something like 27 years. So that seems like a lifetime. Currently play for the Warwick Polo Cross Club, and I think my first international tour was with the Essex All Blacks. We did a month to South Africa in 1996, which is probably before many of our current members were even born.
So how did you first come into polo cross?
I was 14, 15, and probably unlike a lot of the members that we have now, it wasn't by a pony club. So I used to do a lot of show jumping and cross country and that sort of thing. And the equestrian centre next door to where I kept my pony at the time just wound up one day with these goalposts. And I knew I'd been on a pony club trip to one of Kerry Packer's polo yards up at Midhurst, which I just thought was amazing. And these goalposts appeared next door, and I thought, well, they're too narrow to be polo. And I went to school with a girl that kept her horse at that equestrian centre. So I asked her what it was. And she thought it was polo cross. Well, I'd never heard of it. So I asked her if she could get me the phone number for whoever ran it, which she did. And I rang them, and I went for a trial session. And that was it, completely and utterly bitten by the bug. So my poor Welsh cob didn't know what had hit him. And that's where it all began, really. So that was Crofton Manor. So for those people that were playing all those years ago, in our maroon hat silks, jodhpurs, and a maroon shirt. So yeah, that was where it all started.
You mentioned your club tour to South Africa. When was the first time you represented the UK?
2000. So I played for Crofton, I think 2 seasons before I moved to Essex All Blacks, and I was there for quite some time. So we'd done the month tour out to South Africa in 96, and then in 2000 we had a tour that was back out to South Africa with the likes of Rick Murray and Andrew Schaefer, Neil Bradley, Kim Stevens. So there's still a few people about that went on that tour. Lizzie Shearing, bunked with her, Penny Webb, now then Penny Hillier. So yeah, there was a couple of people still around, and that was our first tour, which was 2 weeks out there. And probably the highlight that I recall there was I actually won best female player for the first tour, which I think that, you know, was a massive accolade for me. Our first tour for the UK out to South Africa. So yeah, I think the honour of representing your country and standing out there and hearing that national anthem and then playing on with the best players in the world, there's no other feeling or sensation like it.
Ball's in, it's down there for the ones and the twos. Time on the call, goes to ground. It's going to be first pick up here. That is Kerry.
I'm right in thinking your first captaincy was at this World Cup, about 2019 World Cup.
So we've been out to South Africa in 2017. So I was captain for that tour. And when we took a full team of ladies and a full team of men out to South Africa. That was 2017, and then 2019 World Cup.
How do you become captain for those who have that ambition?
It's a really difficult one, actually, because you probably have there will be people in the team that really desperately want that captaincy, and other people that absolutely wouldn't want it at all. For myself, my work life, I work as a sort of senior manager within public service, so that sort of organising and working with people is what I do day in, day out. And the process really is down to the coach. And I suppose what the coach is looking for is somebody that will also support them. So it's a really wide and varied role. So you're picking up a lot of the organising, working with the manager, working with the coach, sort of those more official functions. So it does add quite a bit to your roles and responsibilities for the tour. And it is a massive honour, and absolutely was blown away to be asked to be captain for the World Cup.
Do you think being a captain affects you as a player?
Yeah,
or having that added pressure on you?
Yeah, I don't see how it can't really, because if you're having years of being a player and not having that additional responsibility, you really only have to think about yourself and your own performance. And then when you add the captaincy in, you're all of a sudden you feel great responsibility for the team and the management and the coach and the horses. You're trying to have a foot in every camp to try and make sure that everyone's okay, because ultimately all you want is for your team members to feel the best they can possibly feel to give the absolute performance of their lifetime. So yeah, it absolutely does add some weight to the position of a player.
So for those who aren't currently aware, there's been quite a few nominate for the Open squad this year, and I think that's currently where you're at as a nominated player with sort of selection ahead of you. The aim is to build this squad for the 2023 World Cup. What would you like to see from those who were successful in selection to prepare for 2023? So maybe something extra from what you've seen in 2019 and 2015. What can these guys do to build for the next one?
I really, what I personally would like to see, and what I think haven't had enough of in the last few years. So the last time that we had a major league tour to the UK was 2009, when South Africa came over. And I don't think you can prepare for something like a World Cup with not having that experience and that exposure. And I think if you bring those sorts of top tier teams to the UK, not only does it give, and whether that's a full ladies team, a full men's team, it gives more people some exposure, but it also inspires the younger players that are coming up through the grades now, for them to see that absolute top flight polocross. I think it's really important to actually build a team, because having a collection of 8 individuals it just doesn't work. I've been in both. I've been in teams where it completely is 8 individuals, and I've been in teams where it's slightly more bonded. But I think if you really would, absolutely do anything for that team, and you are a team, then you don't get the animosity if you haven't had enough chucker time, or you didn't get to ride the horse that you wanted to ride. So all of that building an actual team is so important. And the other thing that we talk about it all the time, but we just don't do enough of, even all the trainings up to the last World Cup, we never swapped horses. So you get somebody that's fantastic on their own horse that they've had for a couple of years, But actually, when you get out there and you're faced with an absolute live wire of a horse or something that you really have to pedal, if you haven't had that exposure to riding other horses, that is a really big negative for your game. So I'd like to see the team riding as many horses as possible, get as much exposure to international players possible, and to actually build a team that's really well gelled. Communication's great, and whilst to play at top level sport, of course everyone's going to have their own personality, and there's probably going to be some big personalities in there, but there's got to be a way of that being managed that it's all productive, and it's all actually in a positive driven way, rather than that starting to become an issue. So as I say, I've been in both sets of scenarios there, and certainly the team will always perform much better than 8 individual brilliant players.
Ireland now with the ball in their racket. That's Joanne Levery, the number 1. She's the one that scores the goals. They give it to her again. She makes a pass into Kerry Bean's racket. Shoot for Ireland. That's not the one you wanted it to go to, but Kerry will take it.
So one bit of general advice that you would give someone who maybe wants to progress to represent the UK and maybe even play at a World Cup?
Do you know what I would say? And the years that I've spent being part of the Open squad, and I've had times where I was up for selection and didn't get selected, and other times where I wasn't even in, but I was invited back to selection. I've been through the full range of pretty much everything, and the Open squad tend to get a little bit of bad press about either not putting back, not giving back, or whatever. What I would say for any young player at all, or any player, don't necessarily have to be young, there's nothing better than any of the Open squad or A-grade players than if you were to go and ask them for a bit of advice.
Now he's happy, and it dropped there at the foot of the 3s. Oh, lovely. Get out the back by Bede. Has to put the pass across. Across the 3 to 2 to 1 to goalposts. Oh, put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen. That's probably the last we see of these ladies, Chuckers.